Hey guys, Roger Reviews here again with another Transformers video review. This time I will be kicking off my collection of Robots in Disguise figures from the 2001 Robots in Disguise series, not the 2015 Robots in Disguise series, but starting off with the Superclass Optimus Prime figure. So here he is in his fire truck mode. He is a Japanese Hino Brandlier fire truck. So this is a real world vehicle. This was the big thing when car robots came out in Japan, was the focus on going back towards the focus of real world vehicles, like how the original Transformers G1 toy line was. And as you can see, this truck is huge. Just get that out of the way right now. It is absolutely ginormous. This figure, or this truck at least, in its vehicle mode, does take up a lot of space, a lot of presence. Real quick, just to show off what he looks like with some of the other figures in the line and vehicle mode. So there he is next to the Sideburn figure. The deluxe Sideburn. So this thing does take up a lot of space. I'll show him off. So yeah, as you can see, very nice truck. A lot of really cool details going on. One of the details I believe was omitted from the Japanese release, or at least I know the Encore re-release that just happened within the last couple of years actually features the C-001 on the license plate. So it has his ID number, because in the Japanese lines, Takara always has their figures listed as like an ID number. So he's Cybertron 001, and so that actually is shown in the anime as the license plate, and all of the Autobots have their toy's ID number as their license plate in the cartoon. So that detail's missing, I believe. Other than that, there's no other real details that are missing, that can't be seen. Now, unfortunately, this figure is 20 years old, and one of the big problems that a lot of the cars in Robots in Disguise had between Optimus, Ultra Magnus, and the Autobot car brothers, they all featured chrome wheels and rubber tires. Now, as you can see on mine, the tires have cracked and has been fixed with super glue to some degree of effectivity, I guess. But it still does, it still rolls. We've got 6 of these wheels. So we got 2 really big ones on the front and then 4 small ones in the back. We also do, thanks to his gun, which stores in the underside of the cab, have a lot of contact points on the ground. So he does roll pretty well. We do have some Japanese text here on the side, along with Cybertron. And a funny little thing, this is the Hasbro release, so this is not the Japanese Fire Convoy. However, it does still say Fire Convoy on the tires. We do have a little bit of a visible head going on here in the back. Come around to the back of the truck, and as you can see, the tail lights and a little bit of the extra details are fully painted in. So that is something that is very, very uncommon nowadays. But all of this extra detail that would just get glossed over in most mainline figures nowadays is actually present and on full display. So this thing actually, aside from the visible head and the back and the other robot kibble that gets stored away, this thing looks like a legit fire truck model instead of a transformer at some points. So that is really nice to see like that. For play features, this thing does have quite a bit of good play features in its vehicle mode. Obviously it's a fire truck, it's a ladder fire truck, so the big takeaway is the fact that it does have an extension ladder, which the ladder is ratcheted here on this base as well as right here, so we can get it to lift up as well as rotate, and it is a very tight ratchet, so, and it is 20 years old, so I am a little bit worried about it breaking. And the water cannons on the end of the ladder, if you push this little red button here on the top, that does spring out 2 water cannons, so that's a really nice touch. And I don't know how I'm going to be able to get this in the shot because this ladder gets huge. It does extend. It extends to about twice the length of the There we go. That's the best I'm going to be able to get it. It does extend to about twice the length of the fire truck. So that is huge. Just absolutely huge. And it does slide back down. And the other play feature that the ladder does have, if you didn't notice, there is 4 missile launchers in there. So there is a little button on the back of the ladder. You can go ahead and push that in now on the jet. This is, I think, one of the biggest. This is one time that Hasbro changed something after the Takara release that actually made the toy better. The Takara release had it so when you push this button, all 4 of these missile launchers would flip forward like this, but it would also launch the missiles automatically. So when you push this, it would fling up and all 4 missiles would just be flung out of the missile launcher. This way, it's actually a lot better. It keeps it contained. We don't have missiles going all over the place completely. Like, even if you accidentally hit that trigger, we're not going to have missiles going all over the place. So, 4 missiles. And there's a trigger on the back of each one of them, so they do all fire out. We are not going to do all 4 of them, because for the sake of my sanity, we're not going to lose any more parts on any more 20 plus year old toys. And then also one last play feature. Now, I'm going to get this out of the way. There's a little bit of scribbling on the back of mine. It's very hard to read out. It has been faded over the years. I bought this figure used in this condition, and it has Neil Kaplan's signature on it. You can make out the little scribbles of it, and then it says NJ H103. So this was, I believe that's, no, 11103. So this was a convention in New Jersey back in 2003 that the previous owner sent this, or got Neil Kaplan's signature on this figure. So I actually do have an Optimus Prime signed by his respective voice actor. I do think that is really cool, and this is one of my favorite toys in my collection just because of that. So anyways, back onto the play feature. This little piece of the light bar, the little center piece of the light bar, is actually a button. You can go ahead and press that. And we get lights and sounds, and they do go on for, like, there are several different audio clips in there. So we heard the siren. Optimus Prime Maximize, which is a little bit of a takeover from, that's not necessarily what he says in Car Robots, but that's just, they were still kind of working on like how to release this toy in the United States when we were still dealing with Beast Wars. So he says Maximize, which is the transformation code of the Maximals from Beast Wars. We get a siren again. Autobots transform, and they're all completely random too. There's no set sequence for these either, I found out. So we do get one siren that does go on for 3 times and one siren that goes on for 1. So we get the Optimus Prime Maximize, we get fire, we get Autobots transform, and we get a siren that goes on for 3 times and a siren that goes on for 1 time. So those are the different sound clips in this figure. Now let's get the size comparison out of the way. I specifically wanted to do this this part of the video review. I wanted to show him off. We already saw him with another figure in the line. I feel this one's more appropriate to show off with some other, since this is a big figure, we're going to have some big figures to compare it next to, just to get a good feel of like how big of a figure this actually is. So I do have several incarnations of Optimus Prime that I wanted to compare this next to. So we're going to compare them side by side to the Cybertron release of Optimus Prime. As you can see, it's quite about the same length. But I also feel like this figure has a little bit more chunk to it than this figure. This one does feel heavier just due to some of the gimmicks and some of the other mechanical inner workings than this one. This one does feel a little bit lighter, but it's also, it does kind of want to push itself apart. But yeah, so it is a little bit, if you can see that, it's pretty much the same size. And then another Optimus Prime to compare it next to would be the Powermaster Optimus Prime figure. More specifically, this is the Hasbro reissue, the commemorative series reissue, which is actually identical to the commemorative series, or not the commemorative series reissue, but the Japanese Jinrai figure. So, but anyways, we have big truck with big trailer, and this one has famously is the first Optimus Prime that we get a super mode to. So that's one thing that these guys all have in common, is the fact that they all have super modes. So with the trailer, Powermaster Optimus Prime is a little bit longer, but definitely this one feels like it's got a little bit more bulk to it. And compare him next to one of the more recent Optimus Prime molds. One of the most recent Optimus Prime molds, rather. We're going to look at the Siege Optimus Prime. Just show that just how big he is compared to a modern day figure. These are in no way the same price point. The closest thing I have to the same price point would be Ultra Magnus, and I do not have him in any way, shape, or form that I would be able to get him down and look at for this review segment. So but still, Siege Ultra Magnus, when we saw it in the Cybertron Optimus Prime video review, he's about on par of what we would expect for a leader class today. So this thing is about, I think the super class figures were about the same price point as leader classes were, so about the $40 price range. So, and just one more fire truck Optimus Prime to show a size comparison to, and in honor of the recent passing of Derek J. Wyatt, I felt like it was necessary to bring animated Optimus Prime into this, just to show that I know it is a very big controversial point to have an Optimus Prime that transforms into a fire truck, but in my opinion, the fire truck Optimus Primes make for better toys, and have also been some of the best characters of Optimus Prime that we have had. So, thank you, Derek J. Wyatt, for providing us with the animated series. I just wanted to get that out of the way. He deserves some recognition after we just found out recently that he passed away. As of recording this video, we've found out a couple days ago, as of the recording of this video, that he passed away earlier this month. So anyways, yeah, so that is about it that we have for vehicle mode. I'll get this guy out of the way, and we'll work on getting him transformed into the standard robot mode. So to transform this figure into his standard robot mode first, what we're going to do is we are going to detach the front of the fire truck, and when you're going backwards to the big fire truck mode, the way it works is that there's these two little clips here. What they do is they slide into those two ridges there. But we're going to deal with that in a little bit. We're going to take this off to the side right now and focus on the transformation of this piece. We can go ahead and take his gun out of this section here, and then take these panels, fold them all the way around like that, and then take the front section of the cab, fold that down, and then straighten all of this mess up, and careful not to press the buttons when you're doing so. So then once you get it all straightened out like this, take the legs, rotate them forward right there. Oh, come around the back, open up these back sections here. and flip the feet out. And go ahead and stand them up. And the first time we're going to need to move the camera so far. So at this point, what we do for the transformation is we're going to bring the light bars up. And now, I wish that there was a certain way, to, like a certain point where they would just stop, because in the cartoon, it is supposed to be angled like this, but you can fold them as far up as fully forward. So, and there's no point in doing that, because in the other modes, they fold up differently. But anyways, come here, around to the side, fold those forward, and then slide these panels down, and then rotate around like that. That reveals the fist in the out of the socket, and then bring that down. So yeah, again, fold those about to there, and then push the waist all the way in the body. I'm being careful not to put too much pressure on the wheels, because I don't want them to snap on me in the middle of this review. There we go. And then angle the antenna back a little bit. And there we have Robots in Disguise Optimus Prime in his standard robot mode. Now, real quick, let's get a look at that head sculpt here. So, if you didn't know, in Japan, Takara's market in Japan, Robots in Disguise was actually supposed to be a continuation of Beast Wars. And this is not supposed to be Optimus Prime. This is supposed to be like Optimus Primal, where they're a descendant of Optimus Prime from the future. So this is not necessarily Optimus Prime, but you would not be able to tell just by that head sculpt. It does look very Optimus Prime-ish, with a very early 2000s anime flair to him. So between the new head, which, by the way, like orange chrome eyes. The Takara version actually has gold chrome, but this one has orange chrome. And then we have a red chrome chest, which also features fake window chest, but still a window chest nonetheless. And we do get his pistol here. He can hold onto it in his hand. Not a lot to it. It's just a little itty bitty pistol. This is not featured in the Hasbro instructions, but it is featured in the Takara Fire Convoy instructions. If you look here, there is on his backpack, there is one peg here for the transformation. That's where this screw hole pegs into to keep that connected shut. On this side, there's an extra peg, jutted out a little ways. You could take this, you could take the gun, and this little peg hole here will actually peg onto his back like that. So you have a way of him holstering his weapon without having to hold on to it, which is a nice touch. Not very many Transformers, especially today, we don't have very many Transformers that can just store weapons on their body without actually having to use them. So that's a pretty cool touch that it is actually able to be holstered like that. Other things he can do. Well, first off, I do want to point out that this guy uses Beast Wars engineering, and that's very easy to tell in robot mode, because now we do have a lot more detail showing here than we did see in vehicle mode. We have a lot more curved pieces for like the arms and legs. A little bit more of a rounded appearance. Some extra detailing in here on the inside of the leg, which nowadays that would be hollowed out and unpainted, but there is actually a panel here with some paint on it just for the sake of showing details. So that is a really nice touch too. Also, I don't know why, except for probably just now that I say that, to feature his Blaze Blaster attack from the cartoon, but this panel is on a hinge. It is his backpack. It does kind of get in the way of Posability too, so I guess, yeah, that does make a little bit more sense. And speaking of Posability now, we do have pretty good range Posability, especially for an early 2000s figure. Looking back at the Cybertron Optimus Prime video I had, just 5 years after this figure came out, its Posability is a little bit restricted, the Cybertron one, just due to what else he can do and how simpler they were making the toys during the Unicron trilogy. This guy is Beast Wars engineering, so Beast Wars Posability. We have a ball joint at the neck, so he can look 360 degrees and get some range for up and down, wiggle side to side. Pretty good range. The shoulders are on 360 degree hinges, as well as a butterfly joint for the transformation, which does exceed a little bit further than needed. So I'm going to say that is intentional for Posability. We also do have the shoulder joint here underneath the shoulder pad can angle out. We have a bicep rotation just above the elbow, 90-degree bend in the elbow itself, ball jointed wrist, which otherwise would be pretty much useless with the way this armor panel is. So that's literally Posability just for the sake of Posability, and it's practically useless considering that there's a giant panel of armor in the way and would limit what he can do with his hands. Due to the transformation, there's no waist articulation. The hips are forward and backward swinging. They are just hinged. So they go forward and back about that far. And then also ratcheted out that far. We get a cut under the knee for swivel, for not a thigh swivel, but I guess just knee swivel, just due to transformation. That's where that gets placed. But we do get 90-degree bend out of the knee, as well as ball jointed ankles. So if it wasn't for how strong the ratchets are in his waist, this Optimus Prime figure would be pretty much the first one to be able to have a natural A stance for his stature. Alright, so now to show him off, do some more size comparisons in this mode. We're going to go ahead first take a look at a partner in the same toy line. We're going to take a look at the Sideburn figure. So as you can see how he stands up next to his fellow Autobots from the same line. The Autobot cars are pretty standard deluxe class sized characters, so he's already actually pretty big in this mode. That's pretty cool to say. Like, he doesn't feel super big, but at the same time he's got a lot of heft to him. It's about on par with the Beast Wars Optimus Primal, the original Optimus Primal figure. So That's about where on par he stands with a figure from his shared toy line. Now, on to some more other figures to compare him next to. Here he is with the standard robot mode of Optimus Prime from Cybertron. Now, this Optimus Prime does do something better than this Optimus Prime in terms of proportions. This one, I feel like all his proportions are very perfectly laid out. Whereas this one, at least in toy form, feels like his proportions are a little bit off, just due to the fact that the center body has to do a lot more for the super mode. Like the arms and the legs feel chunkier, as well as the torso, for just due to the fact that he has to do more that needs to stay in proportion with a larger mode. So, but yeah, that pretty much like large Voyager size class is how he sits. Speaking of Voyagers and fire trucks, again, here we're going to bring out the Optimus Prime from Animated. And as you can see here, unfortunately, this Optimus Prime, the version I have, I don't have the wing blade pack to it, so this is as far as this Optimus Prime mold is going to get in terms of power-ups. So, a little bit smaller than this Optimus Prime, but we do have quite the... it's not that much smaller. Like, they do still feel like if you were to spend $20 or $30 just on these figures, especially considering what we're getting nowadays for Voyager class figures at a $30 price point, that's pretty good. And now for the other two Optimus Primes that I showed off with the Powermaster and the Siege. There's a lot of red going on. But yeah, you could see that the Robots in Disguise Optimus Prime is no slouch when it comes to size. He's very well proportioned for his size, and very, just at least in the standard robot mode, he does have a lot of good qualities about him. But we are not done yet. We have one more mode, or a few more modes to go through, and yeah, this video is going to be a long one. We're going to take a look at the rest of the quote-unquote trailer. And this is also why I feel that Optimus Prime works best sometimes as a fire truck, is because just with the back portion of a fire truck, I feel like it has a lot more it can do for super mode components than a box trailer. So there's that thing. The other thing is, this thing, base modes for Optimus Prime trailers are always hit and miss. I feel like this one is not bad, but it's it's not bad. It's definitely a little base. Like, if you had little human characters that can interact with it, that would make it a lot more playable. However, it doesn't have that. So, we're going to go ahead and get these parts separated first. Just due to the overall age of this toy. The instructions do tell you to like take these pieces off, and these pieces off, and these pieces off, all separately. What I like to do, just try to ease that, and also make sure I don't hurt a $20 toy, which would be expensive to, or 20-year-old toy. I usually unpeg them, the back pieces apart, from each other and then from the rest of the back piece first. And then these pieces I'm trying to make sure it gets stay on camera, but at the same time not break it, because these clips are really tight and do not want to break a figure on camera, especially this figure. Okay, first what we're going to do is we're actually going to take these fist pieces off. Maybe that'll make it a little bit easier. There we go. Okay. Just get all the parts separated here. So we have 7 pieces. And 7 chunks of plastic that need to be conformed into a base. But there's a few of these that do actually have some function before going into a base mode. So we're going to take a look at that first. And my computer fell asleep on me while I was trying to get this pulled up. The Hasbro instructions have this listed as a Mega Robot mode. So we're going to go ahead and take the gun off the backpack first. And it does say to use this. Plug that in. So we're going to put the gun in the hand. Next we're going to take these back section pieces with the wheels on them. We're going to take this section with which becomes the foot for the Super Robot mode, and fold that down, and then fold the wheels in like so. And then do the same for the other one, like so. And then we're going to take the left hand, which would be this one, and unfold it, which, by the way, yeah, I do have a breakage here. One thing I do want to note, the Hasbro version uses some metallic flake plastic, and it's not GPS bad, but it can get worn down over the years. So there's another breakage contention point of this figure, is that it can degrade on its own just by being itself. Like, so that is a big problem. But it's not as bad as GPS plastic, so that's something to be thankful for. Especially when this figure came out. It was definitely the time when Hasbro was having an issue with the blend of chemicals they were using for the GPS plastic, and which caused a lot of figures back then to break. So there's that. So now, yeah, take the left arm piece and we're going to put that on, and it does peg on with these 2 peg holes, which are 5mm peg holes, and they do have the open piece in the middle, meaning these are compatible with Minicons. They're just like the Minicon hardpoints that we see in Unicron Trilogy figures, but that just there for the sake of imagination of a figure being powered up by a Minicon, but they don't really do anything other than that. So he has Minicon ports. So yeah, it tells you to put the left arm, the left Super Robot hand on, and then there's also these 2 pegs on the gray piece here that are going to peg onto his shoulders. Like so. And there we have him in what is called by the instructions the Mega Robot mode. This does kind of get featured in the anime, at least in the opening scene. We do see him with rocket rocket launchers on the shoulder pads. Not so, I don't know if this part is featured so much, just the hand. I guess we do see him use it as his flying fist attack, where the hand will come up and then he'll use it as a rocket punch. So there's that, but the figure itself can't really do that. So, alright, anyways, that is it for the Mega Robot mode. It doesn't add anything to posability, and there's no extra detail being shown that we haven't seen already. So it's one of those intermediate half-assed modes that the designers came up with. Like, hey, let's give this thing just a little bit extra playability with not a lot of effort to it. So alright, so there, we're going to set him off to the side. We're going to focus on the rest of the pieces here now. So the feet pieces, we're going to need to straighten the toes out, like so, and then connect those back together, like that. Next, we're going to take the hand pieces here, and we're going to actually unfold these pieces like this. Keep this one folded up. We're going to rotate the hand around, rotate the thumb, so that way we can fold the hand down. And then now we're supposed to use our imagination, and then these be guns, the fingers being guns. And then also swing that cannon forward for more firepower. And then do the same on this one. Like so. And now we're going to take, it's going to be the opposite side of the one that it is in fire truck mode that these connect to. But we're going to take this, and we're going to take this peg hole here, or this peg here, and that's going to peg into that peg hole, like so. And then this peg is going to peg into this peg hole, like that. And then do the same on that side. And then for finally this piece, what we're going to do is we're going to rotate the ladder so it's pointing straight up 90 degrees. And then take these pegs and put them back where they belong on those peg holes there. And connect that. And the instructions tell you to fold this piece up. It's right here, this piece. There's a hinge there and a hinge there, but on my figure it's too tight. I can't get this hinge to fold up because this is supposed to actually fold all the way up to cover the chest plate, but it doesn't on mine. So there's that. And then finally the last step, which we are going to need to adjust the camera again and try to keep my backdrop in frame. Okay, camera is fully extended. And we're going to take the cannon section, fold that forward, push the button to deploy the cannons, and then fold the ladder sections outward to form the scaffolding of the tower. And there we go. There it is in base mode. Now, what I was saying before about this thing having a so-so base mode, it's one of the more believable base modes. Like, this is a front line communications array, basically, is how I feel like this is. It does have some forward defenses. We do have some guns here, here, and here. So, like I said, if there was like human characters that could interact with this, then that would make sense. It would make for a better base. But fortunately, we don't have that. We just have Optimus Prime that could sit in. And unfortunately, as we see in the first episode of the anime, the flying fist attack that he shows off in the first episode cannot be recreated. It can be recreated through imagination, but you have to take the base apart, and there's no real firing mechanism for it to function. So that's a little bit of a downside. Alright, so we're going to have to go ahead and break this apart and take a look at the Super Robot mode. So first thing that we're going to do, besides getting Optimus out of the way, here, make sure he doesn't fall on his face because of the ball joints in his ankles. First thing we're going to do is we're going to break apart the base. Just take all of the pieces and separate them out. And I usually like to fold these back up. It makes it easier for me to, at least on mine, makes it easier for me to connect the hands onto the rest of the figure. So there's that. Oh, and we're going to need to remove the gun out of Optimus' hand here. And then, there we go. So now, the first thing to do, best way to start is the feet pieces. We're going to open up the little door here and then fold this section out. Do the same on this side. And then go ahead and just, there is a big peg right in there that pegs into the hole in the bottom of his feet. So there's that. And then line the ankle joint up so that way this piece now has this peg that will peg into that hole and lock that into place. I'll do the same on that side. So then we got the feet ready. Now for the rest of the body, straighten the antenna up so it's a little bit easier to get put into the chest. Slide the chest upward. We only need to do it the one click. There is two stopping points. There's this piece, and then there's another one all the way up for when he's in transforming into truck mode. So there's that. And then fold the light bar pieces so they're all the way down on the back, and then extend the arms out for now. And then take the hand pieces first. So we're going to take this piece here. For the right hand is this one. And then take the two peg holes, and we're going to peg those back onto the arm here. And then, like I said, when you peg it on this way, it makes it easier, at least for my figure, to swing these around and then lock everything in place like that. And then do the same on the other hand. Like so. And then take these pieces, and on the Hasbro one, these have the Autobot symbols tampographed on. On the Takara version, they do not have the tampograph. So that is another distinction between the US and Japanese releases. But anyways, take these pieces, and the ones with the bar, they're going to be facing forward. And these have just little holes, or little pegs here, that will kind of rest into the little holes there. But you just slide those on top. and then they just kind of click in like that from those holes. And then finally we're going to take the rest of this piece here, fold this up, and fold this piece around, as well as rotate this, and then rotate the ladder all the way around. Fold the water cannons up. And now this is actually going to peg into, this is going to connect onto the body in 5 places. There's this hole here, and these 2 holes here, and these 2 clips here. They're going to peg on to here, here, and here. And then the 2 clips are going to clip onto there. So getting it all lined up. And then swing that down. Clips into place. Then you can push the arms back in. I do like to leave this at a little bit of an angle, and then also kind of rotate this back just so it's a little bit out of the way, but not. It is a little difficult getting that ladder out of the way. But once all of that is lined up, and get the waist piece situated, and then fold the cannons up for the antennas. Yeah, this is why I don't like this part of the transformation, is because this peg keeps knocking into this shoulder, making it really difficult to work with. So we're going to just do that for now. And there we have Robots in Disguise Optimus Prime in his super mode. Oh, and we can put the gun, there's a peg hole right there that the handle of the gun can peg into, like that. So yep, again, there is Robots in Disguise Optimus Prime in his super mode. Go ahead and get in there. Adjust the camera a little bit. If I can, I think this is up as high as it's going to go. Nope, there it goes. Alright, so yeah, go ahead and take a look at that head sculpt. Again, we have orange chrome eyes on the Hasbro version, and gold would be on the Takara. But very nice head sculpt. I do like this one a lot. It does, with the red mouth plate and the silver lining around the face, it does remind me a lot of the Grand Liner or Super Train Megazord from Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, which also coincidentally aired the same, pretty much the same time as this show. So there's that. Yeah, big. Just, it does look really nice. I do like the way that head sculpt looks. Any other details showing up in the body? We now do have this, we now do get to see the super mode hands again, which we saw in the Mega Robot mode. Some nice new metallic blue paint details there. We also do get this bandolier section here, and some more painted detail. We get this nice bandolier section. It does look really cool. Nice chrome Autobot symbol there. This does open up. Kind of gotta get wedged in there a little bit, and it's really tight. It does open up, and that is the matrix of leadership for this character. It's not removable. It's just a little thing there, and then a little targeting sensor here. Kind of, I guess, to do a matrix blast attack, perhaps. I don't know. It looks really cool. It's got very, very little function to it. It's there. So that's one thing to just point out. Now, the other play feature is, of course, the giant ladder. Can't really get away from using the giant ladder here. It actually does make a really good use of this gimmick, so you can go ahead and swing the ladder all the way around, making the figure very front heavy, and pop the cannons out, and then again with the backpack, it does kind of, in its natural position, it does have parts that get in the way. But if you get it to work without damaging the antenna pieces, you can get him to hold on to it a little bit like that. And that is his Blizzard Storm attack. Which does look pretty cool, actually, if you can get it to work. But like I said, the positioning of the ladder piece on his back, clashing with his armor here, does make it a little bit awkward. And then couple that with the tight ratchet joints, which kind of feels like it's about to shake the whole character or the whole figure apart. It's a nice little gimmick, but it doesn't really do much in terms. It's again one of those ones for imagination, but other than that. So yeah, very distinct look to this Optimus Prime. There's a lot more red going on and not a lot of blue. A lot of it is mostly red and white. A lot of the blue that was featured in robot mode for the standard robot is now hidden, so it's prominently red and white for this figure. And now to set him off to the side so we can do some more size comparisons here. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at how he compares next to Sideburn again. And as you can see in Super Mode, Optimus Prime gains a lot of extra height. So yeah, he does get pretty big in this form. And the other Optimus Prime Super Robots that I have gotten set for this review. So we're going to get Cybertron in here, who is taking up a lot of space due to the fact of his giant wing pack. And Powermaster, whose big head is taking up a lot of room too. So Powermaster's in the foreground a bit, but between these two Optimuses, they're pretty much the same size. Cybertron does have a giant wing pack, giving him a lot of extra area to take up, but they are pretty much very similar in head height. He is a tiny bit taller in head height than him. Powermaster Prime, on the other hand, is a bit shorter. He's got a really big head, so his head starts lower but almost ends up being the same head height. By the way, articulation-wise, this thing, aside from the shoulders being a little bit restricted due to some of the kibble clashing, As you can see here, he does still have the 360-degree rotation, and all the body, same articulation. Nothing's changed. A little bit hindered by kibble for the shoulders, but the head, again, new head, so it is on a ball joint and it can look around. It does have a little bit more restriction to it due to the tightness of the ball joint. I'm afraid of messing with it too much and torquing that ball joint completely off, because it's pretty tight on my figure. But also there is a little bit more kibble in the way too, so it does get a little bit restricted, but there's a ball joint in the head and all the rest of the articulation is the same. But yeah, showing just all three of these super modes here. And then again, showing them with the other two Optimuses that I have looked at for size comparison in this video review. Just for the sake of getting animated Prime on screen again. I would like to take a look at the animated line, but I sold most of my line that I collected back then. And haven't been able to replenish that collection since. But getting these guys in here, so that way we can see this legacy of primes going on that I have. So yeah, as you can see, again, just like with the Sideburn size comparison, RID Optimus does gain a lot of extra head height to him. So anyways, for RID Optimus Prime, final thoughts, definitely a must-have figure. I know the alternate mode is definitely a contention point for some collectors, for some Transformers fans, but as I mentioned before, Fire Truck, just the best primes end up being fire trucks. I feel like both in both forms of toy and character development, I've felt that the best primes have been fire trucks. Now, of course, G1 Optimus Prime, there's nothing that holds a candle. That is one of the most iconic designs of all time, character designs of all time, and one of the most iconic characters of all time. But RID is definitely one to look at, as if you don't like him as the Optimus Prime character, then you can like him as a toy. Again, this was not intended to be an Optimus Prime figure when it was developed. It was supposed to be a descendant of Optimus Prime, similar to Optimus Primal. So if you look past if the character of Optimus Prime being a fire truck bothers you, then I would still get this for the figure, for the fact that it's not technically an Optimus Prime due to the fact that it's Fire Convoy, just the same way Optimus Primal and Optimus Prime aren't the same. So, that being said, any way that you can look at it, I do highly suggest you pick this up. I do not remember how much I got mine for, due to the fact that I bought it secondhand quite a few years ago, and mine is signed. I don't think I spent that much on it. I think I spent like 40 or 50 bucks, and that was like 8 years ago or so at the time of this recording. And due to the fact that there's no media marketing push for Robots in Disguise right now, due to just no home video releases in the United States. There's nowhere streaming it except for YouTube. Probably not 100% legal. It's probably breaking some copyright laws, but I'm not going into that. There's no definitive way to watch Robots in Disguise except for YouTube. So, unlike all the other Transformers shows where we have streaming services, we have home video DVD releases. So I don't know how much aftermarket he's going for right now. I haven't cared to look either, just because I have him, and I have him in a pretty good condition. He's still the same condition that he's been in for the last 8 years since I've owned him. So that being said, yeah, if you can find it for a really good price, I do suggest picking him up. I do want to point out there is a couple things to be careful of when you're buying this in the aftermarket. One of them is the white plastic. Mine, I don't know how well it comes off on camera here, just due to white balance and red screwing up white balances and everything, but my figure is yellowed slightly. And that's one thing to pay attention of, is white plastic yellowing. The other thing, two things to point out, is potential breakages over time just because of the way it's manufactured. Like I said, the Hasbro version uses some metallic flake plastic, and in some joints the plastic becomes brittle and breaks and snaps apart. So that's one thing to be wary of. And the other thing is the rubber tires, which are notorious for drying and cracking over a few years' time. I've had my masterpiece Optimus Prime, my MPM or my MP10, with his rubber tires is starting to crack right now. And that figure has been new. I bought that brand new mint and sealed package in like 2015, I think. So at the time of this recording, it's been 6 years since I've owned that figure, and it's already cracking those tires. Any figure with those rubber tires is something that you're going to need to be careful of. And this one specifically, because there's a lot of weight being put on those tires in truck mode. So that's one thing to be careful of when buying this figure in the aftermarket, is the cracking of the rubber tires and the metallic flake plastic eventually breaking, but it's not nearly as bad as GPS. So with those in mind, and just looking at this figure, definite must-have to a collection. If you're trying to fill out an Optimus Prime collection, if you're like me, where Robots in Disguise is the pinnacle of what Transformers means to me. Like, I don't know if I've discussed this enough in this review. This one has been going on for long, so I don't quite fully remember what I said earlier on, but I did want to point out that Robots in Disguise was the first series that actually got me into collecting Transformers. I was 7, 8 years old at the time, I think, around there. I watched Beast Wars when it was coming out growing up, but just due to the fact that I was so young and I didn't realize what I was watching was Transformers. And then I didn't own any Beast Wars toys up until much later. But what really got me into collecting was the Robots toy line. Sideburn was my first ever official Transformer, besides the Beast Wars Happy Meals toys. Sideburn was my official first Transformer. I got him for Christmas of 2001. So, kind of paying homage to 20 years of me collecting Transformers. Because as of recording, it's only a few days past Christmas, so it's been about 20 years since this guy has been in my collection. And 20 years of me collecting, going back and grabbing figures that I missed out on just due to me not collecting them yet, or being born yet even. And then having to sell due to just life getting in the way, and then going back and repurchasing some figures that I've owned before. Because after I get done with Robots in Disguise here, I don't know what I'm going to be doing for reviews. So I'm kind of a little bit caught up on Transformers that I own huge amounts of the toy line to. So once I get done with my reviews of the Robots in Disguise line, I don't know where we're going from here, but I'm going to try to stretch it out as much as I can. Still provide some content and do my best to provide as best quality of content that I can. Yeah, it's been about 20 years since I started collecting Transformers, and it's all thanks to Robots in Disguise. The cartoon's what drew me in. It's when I first realized that I was watching Transformers and old enough to understand what I was watching, and also old enough to actually get the mainline figures and play with them to the extent of knowing how they work and knowing how to transform them. Like, I've got Sideburns transformation down by memory. And that is, to date, one of the more difficult Transformers to transform. Mainline, at least. It's not masterpiece levels of what is going on here. It's not MP42. But it is definitely one of the more difficult ones in the mainline that is to transform. And I owe that level of engineering to the fact of why I love Transformers so much. So, Robots in Disguise means a lot more to me than you guys would ever know. And here's to Transformers Legacy, potentially giving us some quality characters throughout the Transformers multiverse, getting re-released in new figures. I know we are already getting Prime figures. We've got Bulkhead and RC confirmed. We've got Armada Starscream confirmed. Here's to some Robots in Disguise characters. I would love to see a new Robots in Disguise Optimus Prime or any of the other Car brothers. Like new incarnations of them. So, yeah, I know I've gone on for quite a lot. This video has gone for pretty long, and I'm at the point at the end of the video now where I'm just rambling, but I did just want to let this little bit of the end of the video to point out exactly how much this line means to me. This will always be looked back at what caused me to get into Transformers and what is essentially, by that extension, my favorite Transformers toy line and cartoon series. So, and just the fact that the Optimus Prime from that series I ended up getting second hand, but still signed by his voice actor, also means a lot to me because, again, sentimental value. So, that being said, back to my final thoughts on RID Prime. Go ahead and pick them up if you find them for a great price. There's several alterations available. He was re-released in Cybertron with a 2-pack of his Ultra Magnus counterpart. Uses the remolding from the Universe version, but it's back to the same color scheme. Ultra Magnus, however, is the Universe color scheme, so that's a little bit of a... But there's that version, there's just this version, there's the Fire Convoy. There's the Universe version that is a yellow fire truck. And then there's also the Encore re-release that they did in 2020. Takara did. But I would recommend to stay away from that. I heard that there's some severely bad quality control issues, and they actually had to issue a recall due to those quality control issues. So, definitely, if you can find one for a good price, go ahead and pick up any form of the Optimus Prime from Robots in Disguise, the super class version. It's a great figure. As a toy, it has a lot of play value to it, and as a character, at least for me, it means a lot. So, there's that. And anyways, this has been Ratchet Reviews. Thank you for sticking around and watching this video review. I know this one was another lengthy one, and there was a lot to go through, and there was a lot of ramblings and personal sentiment that I had to add to this video. And again, I can't thank you guys enough, those of you who watch my videos, so please do we'll keep this channel going strong. I'll keep posting some more content. I know I don't have a lot of followers at this point still, but and I know there are some of you out there who still like my videos and have been with me for a long time since I've been doing this. I thank you for that. This video, I know, has gone on for quite some time, but I want to let everybody know how much this line means to me and how much you mean to me for watching my videos. So, thank you so much. This is Ratchet Reviews, and I'll see you next time with another review. Bye.